Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well on a beautiful day. At least it's beautiful here in Philadelphia today. Hope all of your businesses are doing well. We have a great set of questions today. The first question comes from Ricardo Delgado, and Ricardo tells us, should my business have an employee handbook or operations manual? I have a barbershop and I'm looking to build the brand behind it. I want my business to be able to scale in the most smooth way possible. That way I can get investors interested. So Ricardo, what I would do if I were you is I would go and find other chains that have done something similar that you're not competing against. I'd also contact the Society of Human Resource Professionals and see if there are manuals, not just generic, but for your entire industry. So there might be already industry manuals. Also contact my trade association in that particular space and ask them if they have anything like that, or they know someone that could provide that for you. And then I would also create my own operations manual in the sense of how you want your business to be operated. And you might bring in a third party to document everything you do and how you do it. So you're going to probably put down the first draft of this because you know how you want it done, and then have somebody else finish it up for you and give you a second draft that you look over. And then realize that once you create this document, things are going to change over time, and you're going to make additions and subtractions to it, and that your people are going to have input. If you've got a couple people already working for you, then you should share whatever the document is and get their input to make sure it's how they see it as well, or if there are ways that could be improved. So again, you're going to do a first draft. You're going to involve your own people. You're going to go and talk to the trade association you might belong to. You might contact the Chamber of Commerce. You'd contact the Society of Human Resource Professionals. So you can get both the HR needs to make sure that as this business scales, that you're not doing anything illegal, and everybody knows how to handle all types of situations in your organization. And also on an operational side, exactly how you expect people to work within the system that you've created, that you're comfortable with, that your customers like. And I think you should also involve your customers. I've written plans for over 150 companies, and I've run over 25 ventures myself. And I created an operations plan for one of them, which was in the multimedia, that's what it was called at the time, back in the 90s. And I actually had the clients, I sent them, here's our processes for doing things. And they gave us some great input that made significant changes that made them happier and streamlined the process for us and made us much more efficient. So don't write it in a vacuum where it's just you. Make sure you involve other people as well. But I like your thinking. I hope you're able to scale greatly. The next question is from Bob Gear. Bob writes, how should I approach a price point testing when my primary pricing consideration, customer acquisition cost, is unknown? In the spring, I tested my SAT prep software at $249 price point. It did not generate any sales. During testing, I uncovered a similar product that is free. I do believe I have a valuable differentiator for this product, and I want to test the market at a lower price point, around $30 to $50. I'm an expert. SAT Math is a membership-based website which helps high school students realize their goals and dreams through mindset incentive-based SAT Math prep. So, Bob, here's what I would do. It's hard to compete against free, but you have to go and show why yours is better than free. So you have to delineate that. But one of the things you really need to do, and I do this for myself and for my own clients, is I create a spreadsheet and I put all the things I need to do to acquire a customer. So, for instance, how much time are you going to spend putting things on Facebook? Because I think that's probably the best place for you to do it. How much time you're going to spend every day on Twitter? how much time are you going to spend, and maybe it's not per day but per customer. So, let's say that you say, hey, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to put up different recommendations for when you're taking an SAT test, and if you want to learn more and get the right coaching, it's this. So tweeting, and let's say that you are going to go and you have potential clients you're writing to, or if not clients, referral sources like guidance counselors. And let's say that to write to a guidance counselor, you have to create one email that you're going to send to all of them, and so that might take you 15 minutes to a half an hour to go and create. And now you have to figure out how much time are you spending sending that email to each guidance counselor, and you're going to send one email, follow up by a phone call, follow up by a second email, follow up by another phone call. Now, how much time are you going to go and actually spend talking to each client? Because I'm sure parents want to quiz you, maybe the kids want to quiz you. So all of a sudden now you've bought a list of families from a list broker, and now you're writing to those families, and you're seeing how much time does it take to create that email. So same amount of time that you took to create the email for your referral sources, now you've got to create this email for the families, and so you create that email. Now you send that email to them, and now in that particular case, you're not following up with a phone call, you're waiting to see if they respond, and if they don't, you're sending a second email to go and do that. Now you're also figuring out how much time do you need to get out there and talk. So now you want to go to Rotary clubs because they're always looking for speakers, and now you have to do them. So essentially what I'm telling you is you should spreadsheet everything and figure out how much effort am I going to put in to all this, because you might decide, you know what, the effort's not really worth it. I'd rather work for a service that just sends me clients and I just go in and do this because I really can't go and make this. Or you're going to the wealthiest people in your community, and maybe you belong to a country club, or you belong to a club where there's high-end people who don't mind spending it, and they want that kind of special person. And maybe your undergraduate degree is from an Ivy League school, and that makes a huge difference when you're selling. I know I worked 10 years for the Wharton School, and people looked at me differently and listened to me differently because I worked at the Wharton School of Business. But I'm undergrad from West Virginia, my master's from Penn State, good schools, but if I were probably running a similar type of business, may not be the same level of acceptance or willingness to pay maybe an above average amount of money for this, until I was lucky enough to get a few people on, and then all of a sudden I have good quotes from people about how good, and other people shared those results. So I would spreadsheet all the things that you have to do to acquire a customer, and figure out what is your time worth. If you weren't doing this, what could you get paid? So I worked with a client, and I said, how much can you make doing this? And this person actually does interpreting work. He said, I get $50 an hour. Okay, so if you can get $50 an hour for that, you need to get at least $50 an hour for this new venture. And so we based it on that. So whatever you could get paid doing something else, then that's how you should base your number on, and then see over time if in fact you can create a higher number for yourself, especially in the beginning as you're just trying to acquire clients. Our next question comes from Nadia Saviok, and I hope I pronounced that name correctly. I live in Chicagoland area, and I want to go off on my own to a bigger salon and rent out chairs and suites. I only problem is I'm not showing enough of my money to buy something on my own just yet. I was wondering what do I have to do to get there? Open a bunch of credit cards under my name? I'm a hairdresser and I want to expand my salon to a bigger salon with chairs and rent them out. So this is of course, let's go partially to the first issue that you have, and that is you're a cash business and decided, I don't want to show all that cash. I don't want to pay taxes on that. So the downside of not paying taxes is that you have nothing to show the banks. So let's say you were making $150,000 a year cutting people's hair and beautifying them, and you are only showing $75,000. So you're not paying taxes on $75,000, and it's very hard for the government to prove otherwise. Well, that's great. You've probably stored a lot of that money, or maybe you've spent it on lots of other things. But regardless, you can't show the $150,000 to the bank because it's not on your tax return, because banks are looking at 2 to 3 years of tax returns to determine what size loan that you could possibly get. So that being the case, you could use credit cards, but credit cards, you're paying a very high rate of interest to go and do it. So I would go to a community bank that understands what you're doing and see if they could give you an SBA loan, or there could also be in your county economic development money to help you with something like this. The other thing is you could maybe get some outside investors or people who are friends to loan you money to help you get to that. But I would suggest going forward is to report all of your income. There's a much greater benefit to showing all of your income than hiding your income, because these kinds of things come up. You know, you want to go buy a house. Now you're not showing enough income. You want to go and be a partner in something else, and somebody does a credit check on you. Don't have enough income for it, but when in reality you actually have a lot of income. The other thing is, if you hopefully put away a lot of money for the time you haven't been paying your taxes, and it's not surprising, many people who are in those kinds of businesses feel like Uncle Sam gets enough money, I don't need to give him any more. Remember, you need to have to be able to show the bank that you are capable of paying back this loan. They are not going to go on trust, especially after what happened in 2008 when so many banks went under. The government's very stringent on this, and SBA, when they're loaning you money, they're very stringent on this. So if you could go and get a place based on the current income that you're showing on your taxes, well, then that's something you should also take a look at as well. But credit cards, that's a very expensive proposition, and you can top out at that pretty quickly. And I don't, you'd be maybe using it for cash advances for the space that you're trying to get. The other thing you could do is you could find somebody who's in need of someone to come up and use the space, and work a deal with them where you say to them, hey, you're looking for $2,000 a month, I can pay you $1,000 a month, and I will pay you a part of the net profits up to $2,500 a month. So that way they cannot just earn the $2,000, but they could earn 50% more on that, because you're giving them another $500. So you could do it a lot of different ways with landlords and see how they go. You could also say to a landlord, allow me to rent the space for the first 6 months at $1,000, the next 6 months at $1,800, and then after that $2,000. So they eventually get, because every month for a landlord that space goes empty, they can never gain it back. It's like consulting. If you don't sell your hours today, you can't get those hours back tomorrow. So that's what I would do if I were you. Our next question comes from Rajesh Morjani. Rajesh asks, how can I find a suitable marketing co-founder for my startup? I'm working on an app by which students can get fluent in English online. We give Zoom-based classes to students where there are max 5 students in a class, so all of them get to talk and practice a lot during the session. The concept is getting very good reviews from the students, and I'm thinking it has big potential for a worldwide audience. We have 2 batches filled so far, but there is a scope to fill lots and lots more batches. My challenge is that I am a software engineer by profession. I enjoy the product building part more than the sales and marketing part. So even though I've done the sales for the first 2 batches, I want to focus more on coding, development, and product, as that comes more naturally to me as compared to my marketing campaigns and conversion rates. any ideas on how I can find a partner to complement my skills, as well as do's and don'ts to watch out for in that regard, will be helpful. So here's what I would suggest you do, and I totally understand. In fact, myself, I would always prefer to develop the ideas and implement them, but not the sales and marketing, yet I've always had to do that, and congratulations on getting a couple of batches. So there are two ways that you could go here. One is that you put out an email to everybody you know saying, I'm looking for a partner, and you have to decide what the equity is. And by the way, phase them in over time if you're going to give them equity, or if you're looking to sell half the business or part of the business with them. But I put out that I'm looking for a marketing partner, not somebody I'm paying, but somebody, unless you have the income to pay them, but let's say you don't, that is going to get a certain percentage of the business. So there are certain people who are very comfortable working on a straight commission basis. And so you tell them, here is what you're looking for, and you tell all your friends and family, this is the kind of person. Then you put out on Facebook, and you mention in there. Then you put it out on LinkedIn. And then any regional groups that you belong to in Philadelphia, there's startup leaders, and you can put it out on there. You can put it out on the Chamber of Commerce, and just start to look for people and interview them. But be upfront about what you're looking for. And, if you're looking for a partner, great. If you're looking for a marketing salesperson who works straight commission, if you have the money and say, I can give them a small base of pay plus commission, if you're looking for them to buy into the business, or if you're open to that, or that they can earn equity over time, all of those things are good. And when you're looking for that person, find out, have they ever sold something that nobody really knows much about? That's really important. I've had clients where they are selling something that nobody knows, or the company isn't known, and they go and hire someone from a big brand name company like Hewlett Packard, or they might work for Amazon or whatever. Those things already sell themselves. If they were in the very beginning when no one had ever heard of them, they were selling them, great, then they've got this experience. But people who are selling things like Bloomberg terminals, where when you walk in, they already know who you are and are ready to buy this product, there's not really any skill to going and doing that. So you're going to have to find somebody who is entrepreneurial or wants to be entrepreneurial, who has stick-to-itiveness, who realizes this is not going to be easy. It never is, even though you got two batches. It's only 10 people. But you're looking to hopefully have hundreds of people. And so you need to know that person has experience scaling up a business, and that's what you're looking for. And you need to develop a list of questions and be a good listener. Not talk a lot, but be a good listener. Ask him open-ended questions about what's their selling process? How do they go about marketing a product? How do they go about closing a sale? They have to be excited about what you do. Why do they like this particular business that you're doing? What excites them about that? What kind of person do they like working with? What kind of person frustrates them and they don't? I'm very straightforward. Some people have a problem with someone who's very straightforward. And I'm highly organized, and people who aren't highly organized, it frustrates me, so I can't work with those people. So you need to make a list of what you like in a partner and what kind of person you would work well with. And then you have to give them a process for how you've sold it so far, and you need to see how they interact with your current customer base. Like, ask your current 10 customers to ask them questions. Tell them you need help in finding that right person. By the way, I would let my clients know that in order to expand, you're looking for someone, and tell them what they're looking for. Since they've already used the product, they're great advocates for you. They're also great advocates to go and get you additional customers. And if there's a specific market that you target, a specific, if you're working with Hispanics or Asians or Asians from specific countries, you should go and see if you can get somebody that comes from those markets who people can relate to. So that's also helpful. So there's a lot of work involved in finding somebody, and you have to be careful that you don't take your eye off the ball, that you're not delivering what you need to deliver for these batches, and keep the income coming up and having getting additional folks to sign up. So I think I like what you're doing. There's a lot of competition in that space, but there's a lot of people, because English is the common language on a global basis, that people learn, and I wish you the best of luck. The next question is from Christian Pitts. Kristen asks, what is the right way to start a new business under another business? I have an apparel company, LLC, and plan to invest in a true food truck business for my stepsister to run. If I have an LLC, can I get a DBA for the food truck, or what is the best route? First of all, with the cost of LLCs today, it makes more sense to just have this separate. This business has nothing to do with your current business. And so my suggestion to you is make it a separate LLC and have it as its own business. I mean, you're going to want that for tax purposes. You're going to want that for liability purposes, because now you'd have to let your insurer know that not only are you in the apparel business, but now you're in the food truck business as well. And that's probably going to change your insurance. And your LLC, I think it becomes a bit confusing to try to put these things on there. But for the cost of an LLC, which is like, if you go to Biz Filings or one of those services, it's like $400. It's much more worth it just to spend the $400 and have it as its own separate LLC. So that was a pretty easy question to go and answer. Our next question is Corey Stevens. Corey says, what and where would you go if you needed to write an elevator pitch for your business, and how is that different than creating your sales pitch? I sell medical licensed water ionizers, Kangen water. It is used in hotels, restaurants, hospitals, etc. It produces 5 different types of pH water, ranging from strong acidic to highly alkalized 11.5. Don't need to get into all the technology. This technology has 64 uses. It's also another stream of lucrative income for a business and saves them money on cleaning products and plastic water bottles. I need help presenting a clear message on what I do on my LinkedIn profile, as well as my social media platforms. Sorry for a long message. Okay, so let's, after hearing all that, let me read that again. What and where would you go if you needed to write an elevator pitch for your business, and how's that different from creating your sales pitch? So, your sales pitch and your elevator pitch are essentially the same, but they're different sizes. So an elevator pitch is meant to be really short, and it's like you're going up in a 15, 20, 50-story building, and you're standing next to someone, and you engage them in conversation, and they say, what do you do? And you need to be able to say to them very quickly, here is what my business is. So I have a new venture called Funding Organizer, and if I was in an elevator with you, and I said, oh, I run a company called Funding Organizer. What does that do? We have a common application for people to apply for commercial bank loans, so that way they don't have to fill out multiple applications for multiple banks. You do it once, you're done, you share it with the other banks. End of story. So then that's enough information for them to say if they want more, and then we can have a longer discussion about that. So that's how you keep it short. I have a venture called Pitch to Me First. And Pitch to Me First is where I work with people on their funding pitches. And if somebody said to me, what do you do? I help companies pitch to investors by helping them consolidate the information they need to provide to investors, so any investor, whether they have the technical knowledge or not, will understand exactly what my client is doing, so that way they can determine if in fact they're a good fit as investors. Short, to the point, and this is what I do. So in your particular case, you should start out yourself just writing about what you do and then sharing it with friends to see if it's clear about what exactly you're doing. And you should have a very short pitch. By the way, short is best for almost anything, but a short pitch, and it's harder to write for a shorter period of time than it's longer. I remember Abraham Lincoln said, you know, when you have to write a few hours of dialogue, hey, you can do that pretty easily because you just keep going on and on. But if you have to tell everybody everything they need to know in 60 seconds, that's a lot harder to do. So you should write it out and just keep fixing the iterations. But let's say you're really not good at that. So you can hire a marketing consultant, because a marketing firm is too big for you to go and hire. It's going to be too expensive. So I would go online and put on LinkedIn that I'm looking for someone, and here is what I'm willing to pay to do that. I mean, everybody tries to save themselves money by saying, well, tell me what you would charge, because they're afraid if they say I'll spend $500, then that person would have charged them $200, they pay $300 more. The other thing is you can ask friends, who have they ever paid to do this, or they know anybody, or you could say to a marketing consultant, what would you charge me to create something like this? So you can just ask them out like that and ask them what they would charge. But I would go to a marketing communications consultant and see if you find anybody who's sold to your particular target market, and see what they've done, and ask them, what's the process they go through to go and develop this. So, the process I would typically go through to develop something like that is I would want to not only understand your business, but understand the market, and I would do market research on this market. I would listen to people talk about these products on YouTube, or people have used them. I'd go to look for quotes online about what people say about this, and that would help formulate my strategy and what I plan to write to pitch to people, whether it's 60 seconds and I am standing in line to get a movie ticket, or I am riding in an elevator. And then for a sales pitch, maybe you're having a 10-minute presentation with slides, a PowerPoint presentation that explains it, and that PowerPoint presentation might be used both for online and in person. So you might have two different. The other thing I found to be really good is for Funding Organizer, I created a 1.5-minute video. And when people see that 1.5-minute video, that's really great. And you can get people to go and create these 1.5-minute videos from anywhere from $250 to $500 if they're just doing it themselves from home, or somebody abroad. If you had to go to an agency, you could be paying from $3,000 to $10,000 to do it. But I would go and look for somebody online. Again, I'd put that out and have somebody create a video that you can just send this video, and they click on it, something that's around a minute, no more than 2 minutes for them to go and watch, because people have very short attention spans. All right, our next question comes from Sean Drumgo. Sean writes, I have a business that works with companies and organizations to manage their energy procurement in the U.S., and we will perform an energy needs assessment based on site-specific business data. I'm targeting franchises to maximize the ability to scale. When applicable, we can also do feasibility studies to provide complete managed facility services, including solar opportunities. The question is, what are effective ways to market and sell to franchise organizations as a vendor? So, if you're selling to franchise organizations that you are looking to sell them the service that you're doing, it's no different than if you're selling to somebody else. So you need to have very concisely what exactly is that you're offering. Again, this goes back to the last question I just answered, which was to have something 60 seconds or less that explains what you do, that anybody can understand. I always say, if I can't tell what I do to my mom's mahjong game and they can't understand it, then I've got to keep refining it until my mom's mahjong and bridge friends can understand it. Meaning by the fact that people who don't know your field can easily explain what you do. So I would create that 60-second pitch, and then I would also buy a list from a list broker that has email addresses and so forth. I would go join a trade association that you could go and network, because now we're all going back to in-person events. That's going to happen faster and faster as everybody's getting their shots. And I would also be on online events. I think writing to people on LinkedIn is very difficult because we're all getting all these LinkedIn pitches, and pretty much we ignore them. And most of those pitches are pretty bad because a lot of people write very long pitches. The thing is, you got to write in a paragraph what you do, enough for them to say, I want to have a conversation with you about what you're doing. So again, I would go and keep these short and to the point. I would go and join trade associations related to your target market. I would get lists in right to people to go and do it. I'd probably create a video, which I just mentioned before, which I think would be powerful, explaining the value that you bring and how you work with people. People like videos. 63% of sales happen because somebody watched a video on something. I read that statistic in the Harvard Business Review, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So again, keep it short, to the point, focus on what your target market likes to hear, and it's I hate to say it, but it's always a numbers game. You got to get out to a lot of people, and you need people who will make warm introductions for you to help you do that. And those warm introductions can come from the accounting firm that you use, the lawyers that you use. And if those people can't help you, go find new accountants and new lawyers that service your marketplace so they can make introductions for you. So the next question comes from Heather Brockman. Heather, we've seen Heather's questions in the past, and we thank her for asking these questions. When sending an employee for a drug test, is it best to have them accompanied by a member of the management? Before I go any further with this, I don't think I'm really qualified to answer this question. I think this is really an HR question, or a question for your attorney to answer, that understands HR issues and the legal ramifications. And there are federal laws and there are also state laws, so you would have to go and find out from your state what is expected and acceptable there. Because you had written here, I recently had an issue with an employee involving one of my vehicles. We have one on-site drug test, but I realize they need to have an option for sending her to a facility for better accuracy. Is it best to have them accompanied by a member of a management to ensure accuracy of the results? This doesn't seem to be a good use of time, but I also need to make sure the results would not be tainted at all. So if you're going to a legitimate testing service, that's not going to be a problem. If you're worried that they're going to bring somebody else to go and do that, they have to show ID and show it's them. They have to show picture ID. Most importantly, if you've got to actually spend your time taking somebody to have a drug test, then you don't want that person working for you anyway. And if you have to constantly have people taking drug tests, you don't want those people either. So you need to let people know up front when you're hiring them that if in fact you have any kind of drug problem, and I find out you have any kind of drug problem, that's going to be a real problem, and I'm just going to dismiss you right away. So I'm going to need for you to share with me any kind of issues, because I'm going to do a background check, and I'm going to find out if in fact you've had any DUIs or any kind of substance abuse issues, and I'm not going to hire you. And I can't afford to hire you, not because you're not a wonderful person that couldn't be a hard worker, but my insurance won't let me hire you. I won't be able to get insurance for you to drive my vehicles for this, or my insurance will be super high for doing this. Now, if you've had a drug problem, you've been off and sober for 6 months to a year, I'm willing to talk about that. But for you to go and take the time to go and make sure that they are going through the test, it sounds to me like you would be also in the social worker business and trying to rehab people. I don't think that's your business, nor should be the business that you get into. So again, I would, if I have to do that, I wouldn't want to hire that person, and I wouldn't look to hire people like that. It's just too time consuming. The next question is from Monica from Redleaf. What are ways to validate your business idea? I'm trying to validate a business idea which is which in some type of ring and or bracelet to identify available single people looking for love out and about in the everyday lives. My original plan was to get feedback from 100 people, and I have been unsuccessful at reaching 100 single people. Any yet effective way to move forward? Well, first of all, if you want to test this idea, there's a few different ways you can go. By the way, that sounds kind of interesting, being like wearing those old Lance Armstrong bracelets, but you'd have a bracelet that basically lets people know you're single. And for those who want people to even know they're single. Some people don't want anybody to know that they're single, even though they're looking to find someone. But let's say for the people for testing this idea, I would go and do a Facebook survey and say I'm looking for single people to give me their input, and any of my friends who know single people, just send them the link to this. I'd go use SurveyMonkey. I think you get up to 100 with SurveyMonkey. I think Facebook has their own survey, and so does LinkedIn, and I would put it out there as many people as possible. Also on SurveyMonkey, you can actually pay for them to send your survey out to your exact market, and you can determine how many responses that you need, and they'll charge you per response. So maybe 100 responses might cost $500. I don't know, but they might charge you 50 cents a response, and they'll make sure that you get 100 responses. And I think that would be worth it for you to go and spend that money. So in the beginning, you can ask, and I wouldn't go more than 10 questions. If there's a way to ask just 5 questions, the smaller the better, but somewhere between 5 and 10 questions. And then I would go and put this on Facebook and ask that question. I would send an email blast out. I would tweet it out to people to let them know that about your new venture and what you're trying to do, and get their feedback. And of course, as I already mentioned, I'd go to the SurveyMonkey to go and do this. And if you went to college somewhere, I would see if in fact the alumni newsletter would allow you to check this out and share the results with people about this. So you have many ways to go about collecting this information. And of course you need to, when you're asking, is what would people be willing to pay? If they're willing to pay $40 a month to be on Match. I don't know what Match cost or any of these things, because I have somebody for the past 2+ years. But whatever they may be charging, you got to see if in fact somebody would actually pay that, or would you have to charge less? Or of course, there are services that are free where you can match up with people, and if you want something more elevated. Also, maybe this is something that you could partner with one of the big dating companies and have their name on it, and so that way they're also getting it marketed out there, their service, and maybe it can be included in their service. So I would also see if there's a way of patenting this idea as well. But it sounds really interesting to me, and I think could be a really cool idea. So again, I gave you the ideas about how to best test that. Well, that is it for today. That was our last question. I so enjoyed getting those questions and giving my experience and feedback on those questions. I look forward to seeing you all next month. Hope you all have a great weekend. Please stay safe. Make sure you get your shot so that way we can all interact together. Have a great day. Take care.